Hey, we're back. Yes, that's a dancing panda. No. That's my co-host Leslie Spore. Hey,
Panda.
well, dance. The dancing panda. You could be that. Hey, I'm Jeff Harrison. You're with us on the Twisted, Bent, and Exhausted Entrepreneurial Podcast. You'd never know it because we are never twisted, bent, or exhausted. We are well past that. We're just a puddle on the ground,
That's right.
but like water. And who is it? Bruce Lee says, "Be like water, my friend, and
Be
take
like
any
what?
shape." So today we are hosts on the show, Twisted, Bent, and Exhausted Entrepreneur Podcast. Leslie, tell us what this program is all about for those people who maybe join us the first time.
Oh my goodness. Well, we both of us are very experienced in business. I've been running my own company for 20 years, and you've been running yours for how long?
About
15?
15 now. Yep.
Yeah, 15 years. And so, even though we're in different industries, um, we understand what it's like trying to build a company, and all small business owners run up against obstacles and challenges and thousands of decisions, and so you do get overwhelmed, twisted, bent, and exhausted, which is what that represents, is overwhelmed. And so we're here to try to give you some answers so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. We want you to be able to say, oh, I'm going to learn from this and then take these steps instead of having to start from scratch, because it is so hard to start from scratch. We both know, right?
Absolutely. Hey, I want to pull on a thread there for just a second and let you know just how important this is. Leslie said it, but I want to emphasize it. We're not in the same industry, and may not be in your industry, but here's what I learned a long time ago. Often the answers come from outside of industry, and the reason for that is because, and it's perfect for our topic today, is because our minds become biased and trained to only see what's going on inside our industry. We've all experienced this, Leslie, where a new person comes into our organization or our business, and they don't really have any understanding, and they say, well, why don't we do this? And you're like, crap, that's a great idea. Why didn't I think of that? Because we've been too close to the forest. We can't even see the trees. So I want you to realize this. If you're not like I'm an AI automation and consultant, and I own a digital marketing agency. Leslie is an entrepreneur that's a serial entrepreneur. No, not the type we eat for breakfast, but she can just make things happen.
Sarah.
And seven figures that we'll see things that we'll say and share with you. You're going, holy crap, I didn't think of that. And it reduces the twistedness, if that's a word, the bent and the exhaustion that you might be experiencing as an entrepreneur. And so we just want to welcome you today.
That's right. Yeah, my background is all corporate business fundamentals and benchmarks and baselines, so that you can run your business effectively no matter what industry you're in. Doesn't matter to me. Shouldn't matter to anybody.
Yeah, and I'm watching this show, Leslie, on Paramount Plus, another one of those effing streaming systems that you have to buy because you want to watch a show called Landman.
Oh, that's so good. I love that one.
Well, for those of you who are not aware, I did grow up in West Texas. I grew up in the Permian Basin in Odessa, Texas.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and as I say that, the good news is through therapy, I don't remember any of the scenes that they have except for when it goes to the football games. And I just want to share, when you went to a football game in Odessa, Texas, or Midland, it was packed. It was
Yeah,
like the streets were rolled up. Everyone is at the games. It was just,
yeah,
it was insane. But
yeah.
I shared with my wife last night after the show. I said, a friend of mine, when we were growing up, immediately, his name is Greg, and he was he was part of my golf team. But the moment he got out of golf, he went to work for his dad in the oil field. His dad was a big driller, and who knows, now he could have been a landman, but he worked for him. And in the show, they call these guys the worms. Well, about a week into it, he fell about 100 feet off a derrick. He did
Oh, no.
survive, but it was two broken legs and beat up pretty badly. The one thing we don't remember or don't realize about this is these derricks are out in the middle of freaking nowhere. So when
Right.
something happens, it's not like you're 10 minutes from the hospital. It's serious stuff. So those kind of things reminded me of that. It's like Landman. It's pretty wild stuff. So anyway,
Such a good series. I highly recommend it.
yeah, and so my background is more of like guerrilla. I'm in the streets doing my thing, and where Leslie is, I'm going to say she's the refined. I'm not sure which fork
Right.
to use, and she knows exactly what she even got one of those spoons at the top of her table. So, anyway, today what are we going to talk about, Leslie?
We're talking about AI today because we haven't talked about AI for a while, and it is the hottest topic out there, and everybody's wondering, what is AI? How is it going to affect me? Is it going to replace me? I mean, there's just so much, I want to say, nervousness
Mm.
about AI and how it's going to change the way we live. And you know what's really interesting is we've been around so long that we've seen a lot of innovations and things changing. Once, about 10 or so years ago, I wrote a newsletter about this, about how some jobs have gone away and other
Mm.
jobs have replaced them. For example, there's no more switchboard operators. Hasn't been for decades, right? No more
Yeah.
switchboard operators. For those of you who don't know, those are ladies that used to sit, generally ladies that used to sit and plug wires into different things to connect phone calls, right? I'm sure that sounds foreign and weird. They used to do that, and then there was, ring the phone up and ask the operator for a certain number, and there'd be a party line. You could hear other people talking on your phone.
I
That,
love that.
in the days of cell phones, this stuff is completely foreign. I'm one of those kids that had a phone with a 20-foot curly cord on it. Used to drag it in other part of the house so I could talk to my friends without getting in trouble. Kids today have no idea what that is. But over time, jobs have changed and gone away and been replaced by technology and new things. And AI is no different, right? AI is going to make our lives better. Yes, there will be some people who use it, they have nefarious intentions and are going to use it to further hurt you, but they do that today. They're already hackers, there's already stuff. The trick with AI is making sure you protect yourself because it's hard to tell what's real. They used to say, is it real or is it Memorex? Well, now it's going to be,
Mm.
is it real or is it AI? Because
Yeah.
sometimes you cannot tell. They call them deep fakes, and you've got clones, and you even replicate my voice. I believe from my newsletters. I'm not sure if it's on my
Yep.
newsletters, but
Yep.
you have replicated my voice for different things, and so we have ways to protect against that. But for today, I wanted to talk about some of the most common questions people ask about what is AI. And since you are the resident expert in this, I thought I'd ask the questions and you could dispense your knowledge. How does that work?
Well,
How's that?
good, and I think too, we'll bounce it back off of you of like, hey, with this idea, how would you use it in your business, right? Or,
Right,
or what's some ideas that you could have? So, the
right.
first one is what is AI? I'll give you the Webster's dictionary. It's the simulation of human intelligence by machines, especially computer systems. Now, again, I'm just a kid from West Texas, so I'm going to say here's what it kind of does. It collects and learns all the information that's available. In fact, it's learned almost everything that's ever been created by man since the beginning of time that's been documented.
Mhm.
And so what it is, it's like imagine you're asking your smartest friend you've ever known a question, and it's got all this information up in here, and it just kind of goes through this synapses process and neural networks and comes out with an answer. And you're like, how in the frick did you know that? Well, because
Mhm.
it's in that knowledge base. So think
Right,
of think of AI as this massive knowledge base that is continuously learning. Every time a new piece of content goes out on the internet, this content, as a matter of fact, would go out on the internet and it would learn from it.
right.
And so it would answer
Mhm.
those questions.
But to effectively use it, and I may be putting the cart ahead of the horse. We're using a lot of mixed metaphors today.
A lot of horses in this show today.
um, you can. Some people think, oh, I can just ask OpenAI or ChatGPT a question and I'll get an answer. It isn't as simple as that, is it? Because the answer you get if you just simply ask a question may not be correct, um,
Well,
unless
yeah,
we have to teach it. So to talk about that for a second, how does it
yeah,
get its intelligence?
yeah. Here's it. Well, let me answer the first question: is are all questions created equally? No. One of the questions is, and when we learned this way back when in psychology 101 is if you ask a question, why does this always happen to me? You'll get that answer. Well, because you're not tall enough. You have one brown eye and one blue. In other words, it'll give you all the reasons why this happens to you. But that's really not the answer you want, right?
Right.
So we have to learn to ask better questions. So if we ask poorly constructed questions initially to any platform. It doesn't matter if it's Grok, it's AX or X1, it's micro, it doesn't matter. If we ask poorly submitted or constructed questions, we're going to get a so-so answer back, and then we might judge that as like, this is crap, this isn't working. So it's really important to understand there is a process to ask questions that will give you better responses. And I can give you an example of that, or we can move on. But it's really asking better questions.
Well, and again, as Jeff stated, the AI process or algorithm scrapes the internet for information. So if you ask a question that is too generic in the AI's point of view, it's going to bring you back all kinds of data. But and where people get in trouble is that they just take that at face value and plug it into a newsletter or an email or whatever they're trying to do, and then it looks like AI, and B, it could be erroneous information and then affect your credibility. So learning how to ask the question is key, and that's where one of the things that Jeff is especially good at. I'm pretty good at it myself, but he's constantly pointing out to me where I could ask even better questions than I do, and making me look bad. Actually, no, but actually teaching me. No, just teaching me.
Yeah.
So it's really, I'm just teasing you, but it's really interesting. So let's move on to the next question.
Okay.
How shall? Go ahead. What do you have for the next? I have my own question. I'm supposed to be answering the question.
Oh, sorry. So I have, what's the difference between AI, machine learning, and deep learning? And again, using our definition, AI, think of it as the umbrella. It's like saying insurance, right?
Yeah. Or aspirin. Yeah.
AI or aspirin. That's right. Machine learning is a subset where systems learn from data. So, if you feed all this information in, I'll give you an example. Leslie created this series of 56 videos.
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that. So what we do, we're going to take all those videos and we're going to feed it in to a specific knowledge base. And then the machine is going to learn everything about what these videos are. So it's learning from very specific data, not generalized knowledge. So that would be machine learning. Deep learning is a type of machine learning using neural networks. That's a little bit more complicated, but it's basically deep learning is now where it would be. It's almost like if you were being hypnotized, and while you're being hypnotized, information is being fed into your brain, and when you wake up, you just know it. And we've seen this on like what was that? The Matrix, right? And so what would happen is, they'd plug it in the back and say, next thing you know, I know how to fly a helicopter, or I know how to drive X, Y, and Z, or I understand, math and that's kind of the whole idea. It goes through neural networks to create that.
Well,
so it's
neural networks are also the synapses in your brain and how data relates to each other in your brain, right? So it's simulating the use of brain thought patterns to connect data in a different way, in a more complex way than simply learning the data. Would you agree with that?
Sometimes
that's an example of how,
Yeah, sometimes they call it chain of thought learning. So like step 1, step 2, step 3, and it's connecting those. So it's a synapsis of if I do this, what's the next step in that learning process? And you can actually prompt AI to do that, where you say something like, how do I do, like, give you an example. I want to create an ad for my Facebook page, and you give them the details about that. Give me the step-by-step process to create and place that ad on Facebook. And it will give you the step-by-step. So that's chain of thought reasoning. It's exactly what we're talking about. It's that machine learning neural network. It's in a chain of events.
Right. But again, you have to know, it has to know your data, and it has to know, it has to be specific to you. You just can't ask the question.
Correct.
Okay, let's go to the next.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want me to put it up, or are you going to fire something at me?
I was going to fire something at you.
Oh, you were? Okay. Yeah. What is it?
Yeah. I was going to ask you if AI is dangerous.
If AI is dangerous. Well, that's like asking me, is water dangerous? The answer is, well, it depends on who's using it. Like if I'm drinking it out of a glass of water, is it dangerous? No. But if somebody has my head stuck under underwater, it's very
uh,
dangerous,
how
right?
many times have I wanted to do that? No, no.
Yes. Yeah. That's why we're in separate studios, because she has a bucket of water she's ready to douse. But yeah, I think it's one of those things, those people who have ulterior motives to do something wrong, like create a billion spam messages or break into someone's bank account. AI can help them do that. And
Mhm.
so it could be dangerous. But for people who like her saying, "Hey, I want to create AI so it will read more um, scans of X-rays and determine if there's anything wrong, and I can do 1,000 of those a day instead of 500 or 100 if I'm a what is it, a urologist that does that."
It's an
So
X-ray technician, actually. But
okay,
yeah,
whatever. Yeah. So those would be the kind of things where we say, hey, there's exact opposites of what one is very, very good, the other is very, very bad, but it comes from that same umbrella of artificial intelligence.
right. So in and of itself, it is not dangerous.
No, as
It's like saying a gun kills people. No, people kill people, right? And I don't
yeah,
want to get on some big political thing, but that's kind of the same logic. It's the person using the gun that's bad. It's not the gun by itself sitting on a table. It does nothing, right? AI is the same way. It's by
what's
itself. It's good. It's very good, but if used in bad hands, it could be bad.
yeah, it's one of Newton's laws. It says an object at rest will stay at rest until it's moved, it's nurtured, it's motivated to move. Well, a gun or AI, neither one will cause harm or better or good if we don't ever mess with it. As long as,
Right,
like, I know your husband has guns and he has them in a safe or
right,
in protection, and as long as no one's in there, they're not going to come out on their own,
right.
right?
No, I
So
don't think they know the code to the safe, so I think it's okay.
and I don't know if you have a safe or not. I'm just making this stuff up. I'm just saying. I'm assuming he probably has them in in secure locations.
Right. Well, here's one of the biggest questions people ask. They ask this
Mm.
all the time. Is AI going to take my job?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I knew you were I was
I
waiting
just
for that.
I say yes, it is. You know, I shared a statistic that a while back that, and all I did is regurgitate it because the experts out there that track this stuff said, AI at the speed it was moving 6 months ago, we were anticipating 300 to 400 million jobs worldwide would be replaced.
That's
That
100, not 3 or 400.
three or
Yeah,
four hundred
100.
million, yeah. And so you think about that globally, and you think, well, there's about just under 8 billion people. That's not a lot of people. That's a lot of people, right? That's the entire United States if it's 400 million, that nobody has a job. Well, or their job is being replaced. But now that number in 6 months, because the acceleration of AI and how quickly it's being adapted and adopted, is now 800 million. Now here's the thing, and I'll share this if it's okay. I'll give you that example of IBM.
Yeah, I think that's
Um,
good.
IBM was one of the early adopters of artificial intelligence, and they had a challenge with their HR department, and their customer service was pretty bad. It was in a negative. It was like, I think, -30 as far as how they rate whether or not their employees and people interacting with it were happy about it.
Right.
Well, they laid off 8,000 people and installed a thing that said it was artificial intelligence that said, ask HR. That's what took over. And it was very successful. In fact, those 8,000 employees that were in HR that were eliminated saved the company $3.5 billion.
That's a lot of
It
money.
that's a lot of canolas. That's a lot of copies. And the next thing it did is it improved their performance or their customer satisfaction from a -30, I think it was -34 or 37, to +74. That's 100 points, right?
Yeah.
So you can't deny that. But here's what they did not expect. They were then able to hire additional people that were high touch individuals, said, hey, this is a human thing right now. So they hired more salespeople, they hired more marketers, and they hired more leaders. And as of today, they have more people working at IBM than they did when they made those cuts. So it just means, as you said earlier on, just because I'm not a phone answerer does not mean I don't have a job. I'm doing something different now. So
Right.
I think there's a real positive in that of like, but you have to be ready. You have to start learning this stuff.
Right. And it's not that hard to learn either. Whether you don't
No,
have
no,
to
it's Leslie.
necessarily,
It's very hard. It's very hard. Don't make it sound so easy.
no, what I meant to say was if you're somebody who is using the result of an AI output, using that is no different than learning an app or learning any other software program, right? You're going to learn how to use it. Um, Learning how to create it though, and to create that automation or output is more challenging, which is where
Mm,
people like you come in, was what I was trying to say. I was trying to give you a little plug, but
thank
if you
you.
don't want it, it's okay.
I'll take it. I'll take it. Can I hit you right on that just for a little bit because
Sure.
here's where some companies and individuals are going to be left behind. I saw this post on LinkedIn yesterday, and we're recording this on July the 2nd. So this was on July the 1st. It showed up on my feed in LinkedIn, and it showed a directive from the company that said they could not use AI in their business, and if they did, they would be reprimanded and could be fired. And
What
I'm like,
company was that? Or you can't say.
I'm not going to say, but it showed up, and I'm like, OMG. That's like
Wow.
saying you cannot use a calculator in
In
these
schools.
processes, and it's too bad. Well, those kind of businesses are going to be challenged. Now, I went on because I commented on it and found out because the company itself, it was I'm going to call a mid-sized local company. They were fearful, it's a misunderstanding, that everything they do on AI now goes and feeds the giant, so nothing is safe, nothing is secure. That's
Mm.
not right. That's not true. That's a misunderstanding of the process. That's like saying all guns kill people. No, it doesn't. Like I, as a kid growing up, Leslie, I was restricted. I could not ride or own anything besides my bicycle that had a motor on it because like a motorcycle, my dad told me, says, if I ever see you on one, you're going to wish you'd never ridden it. And I'm like, okay. So I always had this fear and dislike for motorcycles because it meant pain, right? But I've not had motorcycles. I have plenty of two-wheel vehicles now, and I love them. It's only dangerous in the mind of the person who told you that.
Well, yeah, and I was going to say something, and as usual, I forgot what it was. Um,
Well, we're talking about the restriction, like a company saying, "Hey, you can't use this."
Yeah, yeah. I think companies that, oh, I know what it was. It was about teachers. If companies that refuse to embrace this technology are going to find themselves left behind because the automation of business processes is going to become so commonplace and so much improved over what it has been in the past. As somebody who used to consult and do process engineering, I can tell you that most companies' business processes are ripe for improvement. And
Mm,
the fruit is low hanging. It's not that hard to fix it, okay? Because again, forests and trees, people can't always see what's right in front of them. And you're right, using the example of the calculator in school. When I was in school, you weren't allowed to take a calculator to class. You had to learn. Today, you're required to have a calculator, right? Because they're
yeah.
teaching more complex information, and so you need it. My grandkids can't tell time on a digital clock. They can only tell, I mean, on an analog clock, I can only tell time on a digital clock.
Mm.
And they can't read cursive either. So, I mean, there's things that go away and you have to learn how to get around. And our teachers, I just talked to a teacher somewhere. I don't remember where we talked. Oh, I think it was at the expo that we did together a
Mm.
couple of weeks
Yes.
back.
Yep.
This teacher said that she's trying to discourage her kids from using AI to write book reports and things. And I'm like, isn't it better to work with AI and teach them how to use it properly and grade them on not only the content, but their ability to understand this? Because going forward, as they grow up, they're going to need it. And she
Yeah.
didn't disagree with it, but she was, kind of hanging on to the old ways. And yeah, there's something to be said for understanding the mechanical process or being able to do the manual process. I used to teach basics of supply chain management, and there's there's a computer program from, and this is from the 80s. I mean, it's still used today. It's way back. It was called MRP, which was Material Requirements Planning. And it was a way of planning for inventory replenishment, right?
Mm.
How much do I need? When do I need it? That sort of thing. And I used to teach that at Cal State Northridge to adults, not because they were going to ever do the mechanical logic of planning what they needed and when they needed it, but so they would understand what the computer was doing wrong, so that they could recognize, or what it was doing, so they could recognize when it did something wrong.
Yeah.
Right. So if you understand what the system is doing, you understand what AI is doing, and what you're trying to get out of it, then you can understand when you see something that's wrong. So to not teach them at all or allow them to use it, I think is a big miss of opportunity for that teacher, you know.
I,
But that's just my opinion.
well, I have to agree wholeheartedly. And I think of it like this is think of artificial intelligence as electricity, right? And Leslie, do you know how to turn a light on?
Yep. Book research.
But do you know how
Oh,
to
my
diagnose it
hands.
if you, yeah, yeah, that's it. But but do you know how to fix it if you hit the switch and it doesn't come on?
Well, I technically do, but most people do not.
Most people do not, right? It ends there. So they know
Right.
how to use it, but they don't know why it works behind the wall, right?
Right.
What Leslie's suggesting and I'm supporting is learn how it does what it does. So when something comes up, you can recognize that it's not right, go back in and change your request and get the output you want. So when you hit that light, it comes on. You could use for many, many things. I just think electricity is one of those things. It's like I think of like people who are phenomenal at surviving. Like they'll go out in
Right.
the woods and they'll all of a sudden you think there's nothing out there and you've got a fire and a hut and they've got three choices of what we're going to eat for dinner. I'm like, where did this come from? Because they see things differently. We just
Right.
see it as a disaster. And I think I'd love to have the educators look at this and say, how can I use this to help my students not only get their work done faster, but understand the story behind it, because there's a story, or there's a study recently. It came out about a week ago, and it was comparing those students who used AI, and I'm going to use your example, to write a book report, and what their memory of it was. In other words, let's say you hand in a book report on Moby Dick, and then I ask you questions about it. You don't know anything about it because you just ask it to put it together and give it to me. So you didn't learn anything.
Right.
But if you work side by side with it and work through it and then hand it in, and it's a joint venture operation, then what happens is you're learning through doing, and
Right.
all of a sudden your cognitive intelligence goes up, your retention goes up. But if you don't use it at all, it's a failure,
Right.
right?
I think that's particularly true for business, all businesses. I mean, it's one thing to help you write an email or figure out how to handle a problem situation, which you can do on AI. Also, you can. I have a friend who uses it for therapy. It's a therapist.
Who
He says
doesn't?
he says I've got this situation. How do I deal with it? And it'll give him and it knows him well enough by now because he uses it all the time that it gives him answers specific to his psyche, which is really really funny.
That's wild.
I find it funny, but
Yeah.
he literally uses it as a psychiatrist. So you can use AI for that kind of stuff, but in business, it's going to be an invaluable tool. And if you don't embrace it, I believe you're going to be left behind, and other companies will be so far ahead of you that it's going to be hard to compete. You're going to have to take some steps towards learning how to use AI, or hiring somebody like Jeff who can come in and automate things for you. So if you knew, we'll touch on some of this a little bit later, but if you knew the things that Jeff can automate, it would freak you out. He sends me new stuff all the time. Oh, guess what I figured out? Oh, guess what and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so jealous of the thing, because my brain works like that. I operate on management by exception, so I automate everything in my business already. I've been doing that for years. But to the level that you're doing it is just phenomenal. It's so exciting. It's such an exciting period of time right now, what we're going through. I
It
really like it.
is. It is. Well, thank you for the compliment. I appreciate that. Here's one example of every month. If you're a business and you have somebody doing your marketing or whatever, you get reports, right? And often it's just numbers, and you're like, okay, I have this data. What can I do with it? Well, one additional step that AI could give you is if you took that report, if your marketing company didn't already do this, is you could take that report, feed it into whatever AI platform you're using, and say, analyze this data. What would be this next step I do to improve this by 10% next month?
Mhm.
And it would give you some things to do, right?
Right.
And so
I
many people see these numbers and they're like, I send people reports and then they never look at them. Well, I need to make that, and I've already done it where I'm looking at somebody's report now and I feed it into AI and I said, what are 5 things we could do in the next 30 days to improve these numbers by 10%? It'll come back and I'll look and say, okay, let's pick 2, let's go with it. Right. And
right.
it makes a difference. That's a way you could utilize the tool.
I just did that with my blood work. Okay,
Ah,
so I had my yearly health checkup and all my blood work, and I got like the results. I had like 5 different, CBC and this and that and TSH, thyroid, all that stuff. And 2 of them had numbers in the red, right? And so I kind of understood what it was saying, but I took those, I saved them as PDFs, I put into my AI and said, okay, you're the world's greatest blood diagnostician. Analyze these test results. Now they're in PDF. Analyze these test results and tell me A, what they mean, and B, what do I need to do to improve these numbers, right?
excellent.
And I loaded the first one in, it goes reading the data, right through PDF, mind you, and said, okay, basically what it said after analyzing both of them is that I run a bit dehydrated, my potassium and my iron are low,
Mm,
right? And so what we determined is I need either more electrolyte or more foods that contain potassium and iron, like spinach and things like that, or to drink more electrolytes to get more of that in. So I've been doing the electrolytes because that's easier for me than food.
yeah.
And so it was really interesting, and that's becoming a big craze where people in the which are in the 30 and 40-year-olds. Is that Gen X?
I'm not sure who that
Millennials?
is.
Millennials, I think.
They're between 30 and 40.
Yeah, they're getting really into health and what does their blood work say and what is the fat content in their body and how can they improve this, and AI is invaluable for that
Mm,
because it can, because it has access to all kinds of data. I think we talked the last time we talked about AI about x-ray technicians using AI to sift through the noise. In other words, to do the first pass through on x-rays and say these are all okay, so we don't need to look at these, but these need your deep evaluation. These need the doctor to look at these and analyze the data because there's an anomaly here, right?
yeah,
And so,
somebody I was working with, they said that 96% of all X-rays are normal,
right,
but everyone has to be looked at by a human. Well,
that's
they
right.
now have the software to look through that, and then anyone that shows an anomaly, it will point it out and it will give a recommendation. But it's something that person has to look at. Yeah.
Right. So then that makes, what does that do? Well, it cuts costs for insurance purposes, right? Because you don't have to have an expert reviewing every single x-ray. And it allows them to make more focused analysis of those x-rays that exhibit some kind of an issue,
Yeah.
right? So you can identify it sooner because you have fewer to look at and you can be more thorough in it. I mean, and it'll get to the point where even the AI will be able to say, okay, this kind of x-ray shows that it could be this kind of result, and then allow the doctor to put the human piece on it to say, yes, I agree, or no, I don't. So it's like there's so many opportunities. I mean, for people are worried that efficiency means loss of revenue. It does not. It
Mm-mm.
means way more efficient stuff. And we'll talk about software in your business later about how I've been using it for my own purposes. Let me see if I have another question for you because I don't want to run out of
I
things
want I
today.
want I want
Go ahead.
people, as Leslie's looking at next topic, I want people to not think of AI as another software,
Right.
because typically it's like DocuSign. DocuSign is a piece of software. It has a very specific use case. It can create secure documents and send it to someone else for signatures. And now it's accepted, across the globe as, hey, this is a real document. I don't have to get wet signatures anymore. But
Right.
that's all it can do. AI, on the other hand, is it's like soft clay. If you're a kid and you have clay dough, what is it? Play-Doh.
Play-Doh. Mhm.
You can make it do anything you want if you ask the right questions. And I think part of this whole process is just trying stuff, Leslie. It's like testing it out and saying,
It's
yeah,
fun. Yeah.
yeah, it is. It's like, oh my gosh, it can do that. It can do that. And I get excited, if you will, work is play because it comes up with stuff like, oh my gosh, that is so good. And then I share it with my clients and they're like, oh my gosh, this is so good. Great job, Jeff. Well, we did it side by side. I just didn't, do it on its own. That's the difference of saying, I'm going to do everything with the machine and I'm just going to hand in the stuff, but I don't know how to do it. I want to be like that electrician knows why it does it so I can
Right.
keep building, right?
Well, you know the problem we had with our GFIs were all out on one side of the house, remember?
Oh,
And
really? No, I
and
didn't know that.
oh yeah, all the GFIs. I was blow drying my hair one day and it just popped like GFIs do. That's what they're supposed to do. But not only did the one I was working at go out, but all of them on this side of the house, inside and out. And
Wow.
Dan's really good at my husband. He's really good at stuff like that, and so he's tracing it down. He even has the tools. He's tracing it down and cannot find the source of the problem. It wasn't a
Huh.
bad GFI. That everything had power. It was like driving us crazy. Finally, we brought in somebody else who had different tools, and it turned out there was a loose wire in an outlet that wasn't even. You wouldn't even think it was connected to the GFIs, but they had pulled the wire from that place, and so
Wow.
it was on the same circuit. So when that wire got loose, it everything went. It just happened. It all went at the same. Why it happened right at that moment, I don't know, but it did. And so if he hadn't had the right tool, he wouldn't have found it. So it's kind of like AI is your tool, but you still have to know what to look for. You know what I mean? It's like I know you know what I mean. I don't know why I'm asking you that, but it's really
Absolutely.
interesting. So I have the next question if you're ready to move on. If you're
I'm ready.
not, we'll
Let's go.
wait.
Let's go.
Okay.
Let's fire it up.
So I know that AI, these are questions that people ask that don't know anything about AI. So I know that AI has no human, is not a human, and has no emotion. So it gives you raw information typically. However, I've seen all the scary movies, and is there a chance that AI could become sentient? In other words, could it take over the world?
Um, as it is right now, the answer would be no. The answer is no. Because again, think of it like that tool that's just sitting there. It's a screwdriver that's just sitting there. Until we use it, it doesn't do anything. Now, it doesn't mean, and again, I'm not a doomsdayer. I'm not looking at this dystopian future. I'm saying as AI becomes ASI, which is super intelligence, that it starts creating its own intelligence. In other words, it's learned almost everything we've ever done, and it will create its own learning. Does that mean at some point it wouldn't start teaching itself how to have this consciousness, these feelings, these emotions? I honestly can't say that it won't happen. I think at some point in the future, maybe not in my lifetime, but at the speed it's working at right now, it could. But right now, the answer is a solid no.
Well, uh, oh, I hate it when I start a sentence and then I can't think where I was going with it. Oh, there's too much crap in my head. Um, it's all good crap, but it's still crap in there. Um, oh, I know. I had a client several years ago before the what seems like an instant AI craze, right? It seems like this thing just blew right into the market. He was working. He's a programmer, and he was working on trying to create an AI model that did simulate human thought. That's what he
Mm,
was trying to do. He's still probably trying to do it if he hasn't succeeded yet. However, the challenge with that is that the way our synapses fire in our brain is different for everybody. It isn't that it works one way. And then if you have somebody with a handicap, for example, cerebral palsy or autism or something, their brains fire even more differently. So trying to create a computer model that simulates every kind of thought process is extremely challenging. However, I do know they're working on it, but I don't, and I haven't talked to him in probably 5 years. So I don't know if he's had any success with it, but the guy is brilliant. And so it's quite, if it isn't now, it's coming. I'm sure it will come eventually. I don't think it'll take over the world. It shouldn't, not in my lifetime for sure, because I'm old, but you know, who knows what'll happen.
Well, I think if you think about it, I'm a Star Trek kind of guy. So if you think of Star Trek and you think about Spock, he didn't have emotions. He only had tremendous knowledge, right? And so then you fast forward to an advanced version, and you have Data, and if which is a Spock futuristic. But if you look at the two, they're very different.
Mhm.
One was like Spock, and the other,
I can't do the
yeah, and
okay.
then Data was more, I don't want to say emotional, but he did seem to have more feeling and interactive, almost closer to a human being. There was the advancement of that, and I think we're going to see some. I mean, I don't know about you, Leslie, but I notice the interaction that I have. Like I'll just, this is live, so it could be incorrect, but I'm going to pull up something I did today, and I believe when I interact with my AI, that I say please and thank you, and
I
I
do
do
too.
that.
I do too.
Yeah, so I'll just give you an example. Like it produced something for me which is pretty freaking amazing. And so let me see where I said, um, oh, shoot, I thought it was going to be very easy for me to pull this up. Um, that I said, oh, this is fantastic. I love it. Um, Gosh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize this particular piece was so long that I created, or should that I had my partner create. But I said something, and it came back and says, it's it's just recently started calling me out by name. It said, absolutely, Jeff, with the depth of information we're collecting, I can easily craft 12 high quality seasonal and theme specific articles per restaurant. Each article would highlight a different angle or story, keeping the content fresh, engaging, and valuable in monthly advertising and sponsorship media placement. I mean, that was a conversation. I'm sorry. That was a different
Yeah,
response versus, yes, now what would you like me to do?
yeah,
Before it used to be Spock, now it's Data, and it's even getting faster. And
yeah. It does that for me too. It'll say, "Oh, would you like me to take this and convert it into a smaller version for online for social media, or do you want me to take this into further detail, or shall I add this for concierge business solutions, or do you want this for executive area?" I mean, it knows, right?
yeah,
It knows, and so but that only comes through teaching it. I realized that I was having to type in every time I do executive errands or concierge business solutions. Both of them are trademarked, so I was always having to add the symbol in there,
mm,
and
mm,
because if I didn't, it wouldn't put it in. And I
yeah,
thought this is ridiculous. So I said, learn this, and I gave it that, and I said, learn that, and for the future, use it this way, and it does now. Or I said, learn this link, like for the training program, the 50 videos, learn the link. And when we put in something about this training program, include the link. And it does
that's
now. It's
great.
just automatic. So I don't have to keep telling it to do things. You just teach it what you want it to know. And then eventually it will tell you, it will parrot back to you, but in different ways, not in purely a parrot, but it will give you valuable information that's very helpful.
Yeah, I love it. It's a lot of fun, and it has tremendous use cases. Nothing that you cannot even imagine today. There was a thing with was it. It was a nursery rhyme that said, I spend the first half hour of my day trying to come up with things that are seemingly impossible. I think about impossible things, and I can't remember exactly what it is, but now I find myself almost every day, Leslie, spending time on things that I used to think were impossible,
Hmm.
and now it's just a matter of asking, because we've all probably been there. Like, why would I ask? It's impossible. Now it's like, well, let's ask. And all of a sudden it comes back with a
A
potential.
good response. I know, 20 years ago when I first created my software for my company, Essential Elements is the name of the software, right? And so I wrote the logic because I knew what I wanted to do, and I wrote it in a way that the programmer knew what to program. However, at that time, I was really challenging him to do things he had never done before. It was, I mean, seriously, he would come back to me and say, well, I got this done, but I never did this before. And I don't even know. And so it was good for him. He learned a whole bunch, and I got him to do things. Today, those things that we were doing then are so archaic and so rudimentary compared to what we can do today. So last year, when I went to overhaul the business, overhaul the software and put it in a new sexy package because it's really cool, we added all kinds of new features and functionality, and so new processes. And there was one process that was already in there that was a latent defect. It was an issue I could not resolve. The logic in my brain could not get it, right? I knew what I needed to do, but I could not get it. And so I asked AI how to solve this problem. And it came back with not only the way to solve it, but the code to insert into my system to fix the problem.
How cool is that?
Yeah. And then the code was in the wrong language for what I was doing. So I told it, I need that. That's great, but give it to me in this language. And it did.
Wow.
And so I was able to send that to my IT people and say, okay, I finally solved this problem. This is what we need to do. And we ended up writing custom code, but we used some of that because when it told me how to fix the problem, it triggered in my mind the logic that I needed for my specific system. So sometimes you get a surprise. That was more than 10-year defect that I had been struggling with to try to fix.
Wow.
So I was thrilled beyond words that I found a solution for that. And now that problem does not exist in my system anymore, which is awesome. I talk all the time. Let's talk about for a minute about using AI in business and how it's really necessary to implement. So I talk all the time about management by exception, right? Everything I do is I use Pareto's 80-20 rule, and I say 20% of what I need to address, or 80% of what I need to address lies in 20% of the data. Everything is about data. If you haven't embraced the fact that life is about data, you need to now, because that's what it is. And I can address that 20% and greatly improve whatever situation I'm looking at. So when I go to look to see how my employees are performing or how what clients need or whatever, I can go and look at my data and see an exception report based on AI logic saying, show me only the exceptions to this situation. It's kind of like, how when you do a forecast, forecasts are always wrong inherently by their nature. A forecast is always wrong. So if you're trying to forecast revenue, forecast your budget, whatever, it's always wrong. But you have an upper tolerance level and a lower tolerance level. So that's what you need for your data. Show me anything within this parameter inside this two buckets of what's outside of that. Inside of that is good. Outside of that is bad. And so when you do that, it will let you focus on the things you need to improve your business. So we streamlined all of our processes. In fact, we have now a workflow that comes up when you sign on to the software that tells the employee, they used to spend a couple of hours a day at least going through, who do I need to go take care of today? What tasks do I need to do? What quotes do I need to go get? Who's arriving? What's on the calendar? What vendors am I meeting? All of this stuff had to be analyzed so they could plan their day efficiently. Now it comes up on a dashboard and tells them, this is what you need to do, because all that data lives in there.
Yeah, that's great.
And that's how AI can help you. You need to look at the process and say, what can I automate in this process? And what do I need to look at that allows me to make sure that process is working? Right?
Well, let me ask you a question.
Sure.
because of what you just explained, what has that done for the efficiency of your business and also for the cost savings and the production of your the productivity of your staff?
Well, we charge clients for the time to maintain their data and stuff. So I don't have the exact numbers for that for the uh, work plan, but if you say 2 hours minimum per week, that's significant on a burdens. That's a lot. Okay, um, but what I can tell you is that when I automated time entry, because we track time for stuff, when I automated the time entry so that it wasn't, before it would be they'd fill out a report and save it and it would notify the client, and then they would have to go in and take the same data and put it into a narrative and charge how much time they spent to do it.
Mm.
Well, I automated that. So when I save that form, it automatically creates the time entry. It it auto populates all the information they put on that form, so they don't have to retype it. And it has the completion time, so they can figure out the start time. And all the employee has to do is verify it and put a total amount of time. That's all they have to do and save it. So we saved literally, it was 89% of the time for data entry. For the time to enter data was reduced by 89% per employee.
That's huge.
That's huge. That's 89% more time they can spend helping our clients, or more clients that they can manage, right? So 89%, and it's every day. This is an
Wow.
everyday task that they do. So, and they took out the redundancy of it. Now I have things like, before they would have to, they schedule an appointment and for example, a client says, hey, I'm coming in this day and I'm leaving that day. So they would put in the database where it says arrivals and departures, and then they would have to go to the calendar and also add it on the calendar so they could see it in two places. Well,
Wow.
now when I enter it in the database, it automatically updates our calendar. So
Brilliant.
I don't have to do. I mean, the goal is to reduce all redundant work efforts, right? And there's other softwares on the market that aren't specific to the lifestyle management industry, and you can make them work, or you can manipulate them to work, but all of them require redundant efforts.
Mm.
And I don't like redundant efforts. I much rather do something one time and be done with it.
Absolutely.
So the point is that AI gives you a tool to do that. Now, if you don't understand, if your brain is way more right-sided than left-sided, it's way more, I forget which one is which, but way more creative than it is analytical, then you're going to need somebody like me or like Jeff to help you determine how to automate those processes. But it isn't hard for us. I love to do it. So
Mm.
to me, it's like a fun task. I love to look at somebody's process and say, well, we can take this out and take this out. I had a client once oh God, this other lifetime, um, who was spending like $1 million a month, big company, on FedEx shipments. And I was consulting in there doing business process engineering. They came to me and he said, can you figure out why we're spending all this money on FedEx? And it really didn't take me that long to figure out that what had happened is, during implementation of their software system, somebody had asked, what's your most common method of shipping? And somebody sarcastically said, FedEx. So
Mm.
they set the incoming freight and the outgoing freight to be FedEx. So we changed that to UPS Ground, and they saved $1 million a month,
Wow. Wow.
every month. That's how a consultant earns their keep,
Yeah,
right?
that's big. That's
It's
big.
big. So it does, that's a massive savings, but it was really low hanging fruit to me, because it's almost always the way the check boxes are set up, or the way, the thing is that most people say, well, that's the way we've always done it. No matter what you go to, how many times do you hear that? Well,
Yeah.
we can't
Or
change
so.
this because that's the way we've always done it. Well, no,
You're
you know,
fired.
no, but
No.
what output do you need? The question is, what is the goal? What output do you need? You know, is it on time delivery? Is it, whatever it is, whatever you're trying to accomplish, how you get there does not matter. I don't want to use my cat analogy because that gets everybody upset. But let's say you're baking a cake, right? If at the end your cake tastes good and it looks like you want, who cares if you use a cake mix or separate ingredients, right? The cake mix, and I know a lot of people who suffer over a cake mix because they're like, oh, it's not really homemade. Well, but it is. The cake mix is just flour and sugar and stuff. It's not, that stuff you have to measure out anyway. It's nothing special, right? It's everything else you do to it that makes it homemade.
Yes.
So using a cake mix, who cares? Maybe that's not the way you've always done it, but why not? Pinterest, by the way, Pinterest is full of how to make a cake mix taste like homemade. So not that hard to find.
Well, today we're talking about AI,
Yeah.
and
As usual, I get sidetracked.
that's okay. So before we go, I want to give our listeners and our viewers a, well, where do I start? And
Yeah.
what I would do is I would create a sheet, and I would do it electronically because you want to be able to give this to AI. It doesn't matter who you're using, whether it's Grok, it's whoever, Gemini, it doesn't matter. Anthropic, but I want you to describe what your business is, what you do, and then I want you to list the things that you do that are redundant tasks. Like you have to do them all the time. Like Leslie
Right.
was explaining how she did with her staff. I want you to write them down, and then I want you to ask, tell your AI that it is an efficiency expert, and it focuses on helping your business become more efficient and more profitable. Please review these tasks that I've laid out and give me a better way to do that so that they're not redundant, whether that is a workflow, that's a system, that's creating an agent, or eliminating it. And then feed it in there and see what it says.
Right.
You might be very surprised that it comes back and it has, as Leslie said, it comes back with the code and it solves a 10-year problem.
Yeah.
And so that would be my I'm going to say my homework for you. If you missed everything else and you just jumped in now, I would like you to just make sure you do this, rewind this and say, what did Jeff say? Write it down, do it, and see what comes back. Because I can tell you, we can share with you examples of our redundancies and how we've used to make it better. But I want this to be about you. I want it to solve your issues, and you see the magic and you're going, oh my gosh, I have my own Pandora's box right here, or my own genie in a bottle, and all I have to do is turn it on and talk to it, and it will grant my wishes, and it's not limited to 3. So that's my thing for you guys today.
You know what I used to say when I would go in to consult somewhere and was going to re-engineer the business process. The first thing I always say to people, to businesses, is what would make your life better? If you could have anything you want, what would make it better? And everybody says, well, you can't give me what I need. I said, just tell me what you want, because generally I can write a report or automate the process or otherwise give them what they need. And people, because they don't think the analytical thinking, they don't always, you get so caught in the trees. We keep talking about that. You're so close to the situation. You've been doing it for so many years, one way. It's hard to look outside of that and see what could be different. And AI gives you that. And don't be surprised, because this happened to me once too. I was thinking about offering a new service, and I typed it into AI and I said, I'm trying to get this off the ground, but I'm having trouble marketing it. How could I market this better? And do you know, it came back and said, you can't,
Mm,
because this isn't a viable business model. So
there you
don't be
go.
surprised if that happens to you too, because it could. You could have an idea and you put it in there and it says, no, maybe you could do it this way, but not that way. So it's really
That's kind
helpful.
of that's kind of a cool answer because of this fact, or excuse me, because your response is not emotional. It's
Right,
based on data.
right.
Versus if you ask a friend or relative or someone close to you, and they don't want to hurt your feelings, like, oh, I think that's a great idea, and you suffer for, it could
Months.
be years, it could be
Yeah,
years trying to make
yeah.
this happen. And it should have been something you said, hey, I'm putting it away. It was an idea that was like, okay, that's not going to work.
Right.
right?
Right. And so don't be surprised if you get an answer like that, because that's why you're asking it. That's exactly why you're asking it, to get helpful information and to find a better way. And sometimes there's not a better way.
Yeah.
So
Well, Leslie, this has been fun. It's we're reaching the top of the hour, and we try to limit it to an hour because I know you get sick of me at that point, and it's like
I
Mission
do.
Impossible. It's impossible. Mission Impossible starts to we start to smoke on both ends, and so I just want to thank you, everyone who is staying with us on this. This is actually episode 21. We've done the new
Oh
for
my goodness.
21 weeks. At this point now we can start drinking legally in every oh no, that's a whole different 21. My bad. But anyway, I just
We
want
can
to
gamble though.
yeah, that's right. I just want to say thank you for joining us. This is the Twisted, Bent, Exhausted Entrepreneur Podcast. I just want to put one thing up there. This is for Leslie. She has a business. Just take a second, tell us about this, and then we're going to be out. You can sign us out, Leslie.
Okay. So I have Concierge Business Solutions has this program called Freedom by Design: How to Build a Business That Runs Without You. And it is the 45, 50 videos, short videos, like 1 to 5 minutes. They're not long videos to get through, about how to set your business up so that it can run when you're not there, which is, to me, the complete definition of success. If you can walk away and go on vacation and your business still operates properly, and you don't lose clients and you don't lose revenue, then you are truly a success. So if you're struggling with the pieces of the puzzle of how to put your business together so that you can do that, if you find that you are twisted, bent, and exhausted from working in your business instead of on it, then go check out my program. It's at learn.conciergebusinesssolutions.com. The link is right there on the screen. And take a look at it, and you'll find out that in a very short order, you'll have all the pieces together so you too can have freedom by design. I want to thank you for your time today and every time you visit us. We love doing these podcasts, and we hope that you will share them with others and tell everybody you know about how much information you're getting out of them. I'm Leslie Spohr with Concierge Business Solutions, and I don't know where Jeff went. Jeff, are you there still? I don't see him. Jeff. Jeff. He's gone. So Jeff Harrison with Swing Point Media, AI automation and design, or consulting, automation and consulting, and Leslie Spohr with Concierge Business Solutions. Until next time, we will see you later. Bye.